Shalom. Welcome to the Chai Academy, and good afternoon to all. Probably on the West Coast it's not afternoon, so good morning if you're checking in from the West Coast. We are yesterday's class. We discussed the elusive happiness, and we underscored the concept that it's money does not buy happiness, right? That's what that was the conclusion we came to. There's so many. If money could buy happiness, my goodness, there'd be happier people in the world. But we know for a fact that those that have the money are not necessarily happy. It's a truism. So, what does buy happiness? And so we spoke about the Harvard study by Dr. Robert Waldinger, where the conclusion, they came to a concrete conclusion. It's the only study, I believe, that has been ongoing for 70 years with the same people. So some of them are in their 90s, some of them have died. But they came to the conclusion, the quality of life, and hence happiness, the feelings of contentment, ergo, happiness, it came from relationships, deep, meaningful relationships. So I notice I didn't just say relationships, because relationships can be very shallow. They can be very surface. When I talk about relationships, I'm talking about real relationships. People, family members, friends, colleagues, somebody who you would run to in the middle of the night if they needed you. Somebody you would go to the ends of earth to help. You would loan money because this is they're important to you. It's not a drag on your emotions. And so it's important to forge relationships between yourself and others. And that was essentially Dr. Waldinger's study. Is that cholesterol didn't do it, money didn't do it. There was no common denominator. Cholesterol, some people live long, some people had it. It was of course, if you have low cholesterol, the lower the better, of course. But it was specifically happiness came through relationships, not from a low cholesterol. And they noticed that in this study. So it's interesting because if you take a look at Genesis, if you take a look when every day of creation, right, there were 7 days of creation. The seventh day was Shabbat, Sabbath. We got rested, whatever that means. That's a different class on the Chai Academy. If you take a look, it says on the first day God did this and it was good. On the second day God did this and it was good. So first of all, I ask you, would it not be good? I mean, we're talking about, God is not going to say, yeah, I created the heaven and earth and it was terrible, it was rotten, it was subpar, and I messed up and I'm a lousy architect. No, God did it, so God said it was good. It was good. And the reason why he said it was good, because you only know not good from good. You have to have this and that. So when it came to the sixth day he created man, for the very first time, God said something's not right. Right? Lo tov. It's not good. What was it? God said, Lo tov heyos adam levado. It's not good for man to be for man to be alone, right? So this is the first day that man existed, according to the Torah, right? The first day that man existed was God said, no, a person can't survive alone. It's not good. It's not good. You need company. You need a relationship, and I use the word company because company is not good enough. Company is not good enough. You could go to a Yankee ball game, and there could be 55,000 fans, and you could feel very alone. It has nothing to do with being in crowds. It has nothing to do with being in a company. It's relationships. That's the key. And someone asked me this morning, he says, it's not easy, especially in the world today where families don't live together in the same apartment building, in the same tenement house like they did in the Bronx, and they live all over. It's true. It's true. And therefore, a greater effort has to be made. No question. There's this family that live in the neck of the woods where I live. So it's all four of them live literally on the same block. It's such a beautiful thing. There's such a quality of life, and the cousins are all brought up together. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is truly something to emulate. So God says clearly, Lo Tov, this was good, this was good, this was good. Man, not good. Not good for man to be alone. Therefore, he made Chava, Eve, and they had a deep DMR, a deep, meaningful relationship. And that was the objective. Now, so that was Torah. Torah kind of validates, or the Harvard study validates the Torah, I should say. So that's really one way to happiness. It's kind of what we spoke yesterday. Today's, and by the way, it's no coincidence that Chava, if you look at the Torah, whether it's literally or figuratively, Eve was created from the rib. Where's the rib? The rib is right by the heart, right? It's a relationship of love, right? We can have relationships where we hate each other. That's not what it's talking about, even though some people thrive on that. It's talking about relationships of the heart, relationships where you love somebody, and once again, not a Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat relationship. Talking about a relationship, a loving relationship. The Torah also gives us another way. Now, the Torah's been around for 3,400 years approximately. So this has been around for a long time. And so it's not news. There's a joke about they asked the Chinese person, and they asked him, "Tell me, what do you think about the American Revolution?" So he says, "It's too early to tell." The Chinese history and traditions go way back. But Torah goes way back. Judaism goes way back. And in the Torah, there's something as a commandment, and it's brilliant. And this kind of, it's a nice segue from part one to part two. Because part one is relationships, part two is a way to go about relationships. So what does the Torah say? The Torah says that 6 days shall you work, and the seventh day shall be a Shabbat to the Lord your God. Right? On Shabbat, Talmud, the Mishnah, other commentaries explain it's very important on Shabbat that a person does not work. According to the code of Jewish law, they're not even allowed to. Forget about working on the phone, dealing. You can't even look at a newspaper to see, what stocks you're going to buy on comes Monday. You can't do that. Shabbat is a time for you. Shabbat is a time for your spouse. Shabbat is a time for your kids. Shabbat is a time for God. Right? And it's a time where your family know that on Shabbat, I'm not taking any phone calls. I'm not going to be on my cell. And I'm not going to be on my Excel. I'm not going to have business meetings. I'm not going to, have to run to the factory to check on something. Your family, your spouse, your kids, your family, your community know that this is the day where you dedicate to what's really important. The 6 days of the week are a build-up, the climax, and the main thing is the climax. We say on Sunday, there's no Hebrew name for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There isn't. It says the first day to Shabbat, the second day to Shabbat, the third day to Shabbat, the fourth day to Shabbat, the fifth day, the sixth day to Shabbat. each day mentions Shabbat because it's designed to work your way to Shabbat. That you have to work. It's a necessity. Right? You have to answer the phone. It's a necessity. You have to do this, that, and the other. But guess what? Comes Friday night, I'm going to sit with my kids, my spouse, my friends, and I'm going to have a Friday night meal. The only thing that's going to interrupt this Friday night meal is if my wife goes into labor. Otherwise, it is called a chok v'lo yava. It's just sacrosanct. It is not to be meddled with. And it's Shabbat in, Shabbat out, right? It's 52 weeks a year, and right, I just turned 56. I've been doing it for 56 times 52. Don't miss. And you're a captive audience, and it's designed for you to be a captive audience. So while it's important to develop relationships with your spouse and kids during the week, this is not allowed to work. Forget it. You can't even bring the Wall Street Journal into the bathroom, right? Right. It's not holy. It's not in the spirit of Shabbat to read the Wall Street Journal, to even read the terrible news out there. It's not. Shabbat is nurture yourself. Don't aggravate yourself. And so you spend literally 25 hours of bliss, and where you can unwind. Now, for sure, it takes longer to completely relax, right? They say it takes about 4 days to detox from your crazy week. But Shabbat, if you do it right, it leads to happiness, because you're nurtured by nurturing your family. In return, you're nurtured because your family nurture you, and you have extra time to pray, to study, to have, and you eat special food on Shabbat, extra food, etc. It's not a day to diet. Not allowed to diet on Shabbat. It's a very me day, as opposed to, it's a very withdrawing into oneself. That's what it means, by the way, when God rested. He withdrew. Instead of being out there creating jobs, creating real estate, creating this or creating that, God withdrew and said, okay, now let me nurture me. That's what Shabbat is all about. So we've had Shabbat for 3,400 years. Why don't more people do it? So the answer is a lot of people do it. Definitely at the Chai Center, they're aside from everything else, we have a services. We have religious services, shul, synagogue. So on Shabbat we get a lot more people than we do during the week. So that's just proof of the pudding, right? But clearly not enough. Why doesn't the world just shut down and say, okay, it's me time. I'm not going to work. So I can't tell you in the past. I mean, I could tell you, around the Great Depression, they're forced to work on Saturday. If you didn't work on Saturday, you lost your job. Terrible. Now there's labor laws against that, but it wasn't back then. But in my opinion, is one of the reasons why happiness is so elusive is because we live in what is termed, I've heard termed, the microwave generation. The microwave generation is instant. You want a soup? Instantly hot. You put something in the microwave, it's instantly ready. We started off with computers, and we said, wow, this is cool. Then they made them faster and faster and faster and faster. Now, if you think about it, if it takes 1 second longer than it usually does, you say, my computer's so slow, right? Because this is the environment we're in. Everything's super fast, right? And nobody has time for DMRs. deep, meaningful relationships. You just don't. Because everything is immediate gratification, instant coffee, instant soup. You even have milk powder, right? It just there's so many, there's such a rush for this, that, and the other, right? The Bitcoin, it trades 24/7. It doesn't give you can't breathe. And if people would just pause, take a breath, stand back and look at yourself as an outsider. And that's very hard because we're not objective about ourselves, we're subjective. But if you can take a bird's eye view of your life. If I took a bird's eye view of this office, by the way, I'd be embarrassed. I have matzah literally to the ceiling where you can't see. But if you take a bird's eye view of your life, you'll say to yourself, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. Do I work for a living, or does my business, do I run my life, or does my life run me? Do I run my office, or does my office run me? But you don't see it because you're so you, me, I, we, collective, so stuck in the mire of life that we cannot breathe. So Shabbat helps us, but it's not enough. It's not enough. There's a reason why the Torah says, it's a biblical command, you shall study by day and by night. And the sages say, set a little time, doesn't matter, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, half hour, to study during the day and study by the night. Why? You need to nurture yourself. That's what it's all about. Nurturing. It's not all about selling cars. It's not all about being a stockbroker. It's not all about selling watches. Or whatever it is. Hebrew school, preschool, right? It's always you need to nurture yourself. And the best way to do it is to just take a deep breath and analyze. Analyze. Am I in control, or am I so out of control that it's shocking? So slowing down is another way. So we have relationships. We're having slowing down, taking a check. Do you do enough for yourself? Do you nurture your spouse? Right? Go out. Go out. Right? That's, by the way, that's the secret to a healthy marriage is spend time with each other, and not in a movie theater where you won't spend time. Spend time with, go to a restaurant, etc. Just take a walk in the park together, holding hands, or not. But spend time. I think another, if anybody has any questions, by the way, please, you in the comment section. I think another very important part to happiness is we also learn from the Torah. And you look at the Torah, and it's 5 books of Moses. Literally every verse is wisdom. And it may seem story form. It may seem that it doesn't have, what's the deeper message here? So try this one on for size. We all know the story of Joseph. Joseph, Jacob's favorite son. And because Jacob loved him, and Joseph knew he was loved, and he became cocky, the brothers were jealous, and they sold him as a slave to the Midianites. The Midianites sold him to the Egyptians. The Egyptians sold him. The Egyptians sold him on the butcher's block, and as a slave. And make a long story short, he was attempted. The mistress of the house, the woman of the house, the master of the house, wanted to seduce him. He refused, and they put him in prison. He was in prison for over a decade for attempted rape. which he did not do. Right? Talk about the Me Too movement back then. 12 years. He finally get out of prison. He meets the Pharaoh, and he becomes the viceroy, the prime minister of Egypt. A famine comes. He's been very, very he's been very progressive in making sure, and very forward thinking and planning to make sure that there's food in the storehouses, and so therefore the people in Egypt and beyond do not have to starve. The brothers who live in Canaan haven't seen him in 20-something years. It's I mean, a tremendous amount of time. He was literally, he was 17 years old when he was sold as a slave. So the brothers finally, and he said to his brothers, "I'm Joseph." His father, "Daddy's still alive," and yada yada yada. So, and kumbaya, there was a reunion, and Jacob came down. There was a lot of tears, cries, hugs, kisses, and forgiveness, etc., etc. Making a very long story short, Jacob lives in Egypt for, I think, 19 years and then passes. They bury Jacob. The Torah tells us something very insightful. The Torah tells us that the brothers said to one another, "Now that father has been buried, Lu Yistamenu Yosef. Yosef is going to hate us. Joseph is going to take revenge on us. He only was tolerant of us and our attempted murder, literally, of him, ruining his life. He was only tolerant of us because of Daddy. Once Daddy Jacob passed, now you're going to see the spaghetti hit the fan." So they decided they're going to beg by him for mercy. They came to Joseph and they said, this is the tail end of Bereshit, of Genesis, the book of Genesis. They came to him and said, "We ask you, please, please, do not take revenge. Do not, please." So Joseph looked at them. He raised an eyebrow and he goes, No. You didn't sell me. God sent me. You didn't sell me. It was God who sent me. Now, what's the difference between selling and sent? What was he trying to say? What was he trying to say? God sent me. Selling is what we do to artifacts we have. Right? We just got central air, so we're going to sell our air conditioning unit. We just got a new dining room table, so we're selling our dining room table. We just got this, that, the other. We're selling. We're selling a house. We're selling a condo. We're selling a car. Now, do we ask the air conditioner and the car if they want to be sold? Do we ask the dog that we're selling if it wants to be sold? No, it's an item that we sell. That's selling. By Joseph saying, "You didn't sell me, I was sent." What is sending? Sending is that God sent me. He said the sender evaluated and said, "I'm going to send him to save the lives of the Israelites during the famine." When you send somebody on a mission, you send somebody to buy something for you. You send somebody to, go to the post office. You go, right? Basically, what you're saying is, I implicitly trust you to get this done. I know you could do this. You wouldn't send your neighbor's cat to the post office to go into your post office box. You may not even send your neighbor who's intolerable. But you will send somebody who you think can get the job done. So you think about it. Who am I going to send? Who am I going to send? What Joseph was telling the brothers is that God sent me. God sent me. God chose me for this mission. You, pieces on a chessboard. My mission is what God wants me to do. And so therefore, no, I'm not going to take it out on you, because God sent me. Not selling. Take out that word. Selling is derogatory. Sent. My core mission in life was to save Daddy and the family. And God orchestrated it a certain way. If a person understands, if a person gets, if a person comprehends, if a person internalizes that they have a mission, they have a mission, that you and I were sent by God for specific things, regardless if you know what they are in advance or you can only just think about it, post facto, then you know you're on a mission. And if you're on a mission, from God, then how could you just look at life and say, I should have been a frog. What am I doing here? I hate myself. Or so self-loathe. If you think to yourself, and if you say to yourself, if you acknowledge to yourself that you're sent to this world. We've discussed this before. A birthday is when the day God said, you matter and are needed. You're needed down in the world you're needed in the world in order to be my proxy. We share the same last name. All of us. God. So knowing that we're not here for naught, understanding that we are on a holy mission. We need to make a difference, and we do make a difference. And you can help once again by pausing. Stop what you're doing. Think about things. There's a reason we pray every day. We meditate every day. Praying is supposed to be a meditation. What is my mission? How am I doing? As Ed Koch used to say. Then you'll find life more meaningful. So that's the common denominator. Meaningful life is relationships. Slow down and realize you're on a mission. And to add to the mission part, is that part of your mission is to help people. If you're only helping yourself, then you're a narcissist. Part of your mission is to help. That's why you were made. That's part of your mission. So by helping others actually creates happiness. Right? When I was sent here by the Lubavitcher Rebbe to open up the Chai Center quite a number of years ago, 3 decades, one of the instructions that I saw in writing was that as a Chabad rabbi, you have to fundraise. It's just if you're the director, especially. So one of the directives is realize that when you ask somebody for tzedakah to support the cause, support the Chai Center, he says that you're not asking them. You're helping them in their mission. Now, it's hard to wrap your mind around, but it's true. It's true. It's a little bit of both. You're asking, but person gives, it feels good. And it's because they're fulfilling their mission at that moment. So, God bless. Good luck with your happiness. This is not my advice. This is things I've gleaned from the big books. And we'll talk again. Please feel free to share. Please feel obligated to share this and any other talk. Maybe that's your mission as well. Be well.